While conventioners last night were hearing speeches from delegates, you had a whole host of protesters out on the street clashing with police. And if you are online, you obviously are able to find all of the video that there is. I think one in particular that has done an incredible job, Tenet Media. They've been doing live streams of the protests, and you can see all of the, some would characterize as chaos. Flags being burned, protesters being arrested, clashing with police. So you can clearly see all of that. But here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily, we're taking a look at what was talked about on the convention hall. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. But here on the ground in Chicago with Illinois in Focus Daily, Governor J.B. Pritzker delivered his speech last night on the convention floor. And the governor is in his second term as Illinois governor. He just a few weeks ago was considered as one of the names being considered for Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick. Obviously, that did not happen. Instead, Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz. But Governor Pritzker, being somebody who's, a billionaire and funds Democrats in Illinois and beyond, has his own, political action committee, Think Big, helping, prop up candidates in other states. There was several interesting things that happened yesterday on the convention floor, including Bernie Sanders getting up, Vermont senator, and he said that billionaires shouldn't be able to buy primaries. And then just a few speeches later, it was Governor J.B. Pritzker who is himself a billionaire. But the governor did take time to talk about Illinois' history in having presidents come from Illinois, but also having, a big role in selecting who's the president. One thing that you hear a lot about is, the land of Lincoln, Illinois, having, be the place where Abraham Lincoln last lived before he became president. Chicago also was the place where Republicans nominated Lincoln to be their candidate in 1860. But Pritzker gave a little bit more history on what he said was Illinois' presidential pedigree.
Now, Illinois' presidential pedigree is unmatched. And given that Vice President Kamala Harris spent some of her early life right here, I speak for the entire Illinois delegation when I say we claim her too. Now, one president we will never claim is the con artist the Republicans nominated in Milwaukee last month. Donald Trump once called Chicago embarrassing. To quote a great Chicagoan who won 6 world championships on these very grounds, we take that personally.
Pritzker then went on to say that Trump says he's a billionaire, but take it from a billionaire. He points to himself, and then he made some other quip. But Pritzker also discussed, all the things that he says Trump screwed up, including, he says, COVID-19 and managing that crisis.
During COVID, we supported small businesses and jobs. And Donald told us to inject bleach.
I think you could probably find a fair share of small businesses in Illinois that say that they were not supported by the state after being told to essentially close down for weeks and months, and then to limit capacity to 25%, and then limit capacity to 50%. And that was, kind of moved around quite a bit. And then you had people being told they couldn't have more than 3 or 4 people on a boat at a time. And all of these edicts coming from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker with executive orders that went on for more than 2 years, and the masking of kids in schools and the requirements of vaccines for certain state employees and the encouragement of the private sector to have vaccine passports and the like. So regardless, I digress a bit. Interesting to hear that brought up on the stage. And we've heard this line before several times, especially even the vice presidential nominee, Tim Walz, saying that, the schools were reopened by President Biden. Well, again, Trump didn't close schools. It was the governors who were closing schools, like Governor J.B. Pritzker did. But regardless, more from last night's speech with Governor Pritzker. He said that Democrats, they want to see a healthy economy. They want to see businesses thrive and grow. And he said that there's just a difference in philosophy between Democrats and Republicans.
But the anti-freedom, anti-family policies of MAGA Republicans are driving workers away. Here's the thing. Americans don't want to be forced to drive 100 miles to deliver a baby because a draconian abortion law shut down the maternity ward. Americans want the hope of giving birth through IVF, not the fear that it might be taken away. Americans with LGBTQ kids don't want them facing discrimination at school because the state sanctioned it.
Leslie Colasso, a Republican running for a district up here in Chicago for the Illinois State House. I connected with her outside of the convention halls, and they were talking about education. She and other Republicans running for Chicago area districts. And she said that, listen, parents don't want their kids to be indoctrinated.
Some parents don't want that, and they should be able to still allow their kids to attend schools and have an option to do that may not be so focused on those things. If you want your child indoctrinated, then fine, put them where you want. The beauty of this is that we all live in a free country, but some kids don't have certain options, and I don't think that's fair. So I think we have to fight on their behalf.
And that school choice, we'll obviously hear a lot more about that in the next 80 days, fewer days than that, before the November 5th election. But, getting kind of both sides of the argument here on schools, what's taught there. Some people say it's about equity. Other people say it's about indoctrination. And should there be school choice? Clearly a defining factor that kind of separates the two parties. But the governor also talked about open carry and how some states that allow that make people feel unsafe.
Americans want to go to their neighborhood grocery store and not have to worry about some random guy open carrying an AR-15.
Now, I know that some states have open carry or what's considered constitutional carry, and it doesn't turn into the wild, wild west out there. In states where, in particular jurisdictions where there's heavy amounts of gun control, like Chicago, you have an increased number of shootings that happen. And you can look at the headlines every weekend here in Chicago and see that play out. But earlier the governor talked about what businesses need. They need workers. In Illinois, you have, continued out migration. Businesses moving out of the state. A lot of businesses announcing layoffs. If you look at the WARN reports each and every month, you can see that. But the governor also, he talked about how Democrats do want a strong economy.
Democrats are for lower taxes and higher wages, less inflation and more business growth. We just think it's wrong to craft those policies for Elon Musk and not for everyday working people.
And the governor getting those applause at the convention yesterday, but he said the choice is clear between these two candidates, either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump.
We have a choice, America, between the man who left our country a total mess and the woman who has spent 4 years cleaning it up.
Now, you can go and obviously watch the governor's entire speech. And before the speech, I connected with Rockford Democratic State Representative Maurice West. And we talked, and you can see this entire interview at America's Talking Network on YouTube. But we talked about, how he found out that Biden wasn't running, the thinking of the days there before it was official that Kamala Harris was going to be the candidates. And now here we were in the convention hall to see the official nomination of Harris. But I asked West about the governor and how he was thought to possibly be a pick for Harris's VP, but that didn't happen. Here's some of West's thoughts. And again, you can see this entire interview at America's Talking Network on YouTube.
We have a choice.
And here we go.
I would say even though he wasn't picked, it should be an honor of his lifetime to be considered. And it also shows that he's doing the work here in the state. And he's doing good work that resonates with what Kamala Harris wanted. When I saw who she picked, Governor Tim Walz, and I started hearing about him, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great pick. We need someone who could bring the tone down and can make it feel more familiar, make it feel like that's someone I can resonate with. He's not nothing wrong with it, but I'm accustomed to seeing people from Ivy League education or a lawyer and whatnot. But this guy's a dad and a coach, and that shares with a lot of people. I can have these jobs of serving young people and still, resonate into different arenas. So I'm really excited what's that going to look like. But going back to Governor Pritzker, yeah, he's just fine. If he so desires, depending on what everything goes down, yeah, he can run for federal office if he so desires. But for now, I'm
He says he's glad that Pritzker's still the governor of Illinois. Again, you can see that entire interview with Maurice West at America's Talking Network on YouTube or at thecentersquare.com. But before the governor even took to the stage, the Illinois Republican Party shared this statement from their chairperson, Kathy Salvi. She said that Pritzker has failed Illinois as governor and allowed the states to be overrun by, quote, illegal border crossers, out-of-control crime, and billions in new taxes. As a result, Salvi said, Illinois is in slow decay with residents and businesses leaving a high tax burden. Quote, businesses are taking flights, leaving, and Illinois citizens and taxpayers are left paying the check. As Pritzker soft launches his campaign for president, Illinois families are hurting, and Pritzker doesn't care, Salvi said. Our state is just another stepping stone for him to advance his ambition while we are saddled with the heavy effect of his administration's failed policies. One thing's clear from Pritzker's primetime speech slot. The only way our state will have actual representation is by voting Republican in November. So that's just some of the back and forth here on the ground at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. I'm Greg Bishop, and be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with us each and every weekday morning as I'm on the road here. All right, it's like got duct tape and bubble gum piecing this all together. So I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and sharing this and liking and subscribing and following. All right, so obviously each and every weekday morning we'll be here. We'll be back at it tomorrow with Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network and The Center Square.